Hello, Hariko.
Questo pubblico Mr. Milam, Mr. Bapti, Minister, we might start a couple of minutes later as the House is still sitting.
Thanks, Sarika.
Yeah, I have to go. Good meeting.
Members, Minister, I just received a message from the chair that we maybe wait another half an hour as the House is busy with the final declarations. Members, Minister, I've just been informed by the chairperson that we can proceed with the meeting at 20:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, honorable members, and good evening, the department.
Good evening, Chair.
Evening, Chair.
You don't even want to say good evening. You
Evening,
are
Chair.
cross.
Evening, Chair.
Evening, good evening. Yes, man, good evening. The time now, I think it's 1:30 or it's 1 minute past 1:30. I first want to apologize for what has happened. We didn't see it coming. We thought it will be done by 8 at least, or 7:15. Jalonjalo. We tried to calculate the minimum hours of the sitting, but it was all in vain. I really apologize for our late start. And it's our first, maybe it's our first and last meeting that we hold it in the evening, especially after the house sitting. I hope that our approach has been accepted.
We've lost you, Chair.
No, I'm here. I'm just looking at the roll.
Oh,
Or the
yeah, we do follow
roll
quorum.
call. Or the roll call that, yes, I can see that Honorable Bapti has joined. I was looking at Honorable Tring because Honorable Tring has just spoken right now after, about some while. So I was also looking at who's else, Honorable Mylem was the first one to join the meeting. Maybe he also take the stance of joining with another gadget like myself, and Honorable Paulson is present. I saw the message from Honorable Fasia. She was asking whether is the meeting going to sit on the same time. Honorable Tring has joined. Thank you very much for all those members that managed to join. And Honorable Ntshabelenge requested to join later. Maybe he's also going to join. Okay, let's fly agenda. Agenda is going to deal with one item, I know for a fact, but let's formally flight the agenda, Ariko. Thank you very much. And I know that we are going to be business-like. We're not going to stretch quite a long time, especially if everything is in point and everything is being addressed on how we want the department and also the minister in particular will take us on board on everything that members will be asking. Let me say the meeting is officially opened and I wish to welcome everybody in the meeting. Fortunately, it's not in the morning right now. You have welcomed in other meetings. I am just doing the courtesy and professionalism to welcome you in this meeting, which is focusing on one thing and the only thing. So there it is. Maybe also let's give honorable members to adopt this agenda as proposed and also give an opportunity to Ariko to put forward the apologies. Rico?
Okay, thanks, Chair. Yeah, as you've indicated earlier, Chair, the only apology that we received was from Mr. Nchabileng, who will be joining us, Chair, later. Thank you, Chair. Oh yeah, and Mayor Sompa Masiu is also on the platform, Chair.
Okay. Oh, yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Masomba, because I heard you complain about the battery that goes flat. And I just want to advise you to always keep your cable and also 2-pin plug for the parliament to touch on it. And I understand that there are glitches that are taking place in terms of the electricity now. I don't know, we still have to ask that what's happening from our areas, different areas had electricity glitching, which sometimes they call it electricity reduction. I don't know whether it is because of it, but we had a problem this week of this. Thank you very much, honorable members. And then can we adopt the agenda as proposed and also accept the apologies? Let me look at the hands. Honorable Mylan?
Chair, I propose the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Honorable Bapti?
Chair, I will second the proposal.
Thank you very much, honorable Bapti. The agenda.
We lost you again, Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable Mylem, who adopted the agenda and also seconded by honorable Bapti. But didn't hear anything about the acceptance of the apologies because it's accepted. So we need to have something. Honorable Mylem again.
Sorry, Chair, legacy hand.
Oh, it's a legacy. Bapti, honorable Bapti.
Chair, I'll move to adopt the apologies.
I want someone to accept apologies. I mean, yes, to accept the apology.
Chair, I'll second that.
No
It's
one.
fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. Somba?
Chairperson, I wanted to accept the apology notes. Thanks.
Okay. Any one of the two. Other one is accepting the apologies and the other one second. We'll see on how to write. Can we proceed with the meeting? I don't want to delay this meeting. It's even in the evening already. Ariko, let's go straight to the minister. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening to you and good evening to members, colleagues and the Secretariat. And thank you for occasioning this opportunity for the Minister to take you through the recent occurrences at NECSA. It's unfortunate that they were meeting under these circumstances when in fact we had made significant strides at NECSA.
Recording in progress.
I must say that the board at NECSA and the management, of course, have been able to steer the ship out of very troubled waters. You'll see when the audited financial statements come out that there's significant improvements in relation to the audit outcomes. They've turned the corner also in terms of financial performance. So NECSA is on a good betting pitch, if you had to use the cricket analogy. So we are on a good run. But it's unfortunate that they were at a situation where A few members of the board, they resigned, and we'll take you through, if you like, the sequence of events. Despite all the efforts of the minister to ensure that we get to appreciate what the issues are, we couldn't succeed with getting the board to correct. But this is not a train smash, because it so happens that we had already gone out on a invitation for members of the public who are keen on being part of the board of the SOEs in our stable. Were invited to submit their expression of interest. We had gone out, I think, about two months ago. Almost all these boards are coming to, all the boards are coming to an end in the next 2 to 5 months. So we wanted to ensure that way before their term ends, we would have put in place a new board so that the transition is seamless. So with the current events at NECSA, what that means is that we're simply accelerating the appointment of the board. So we're bringing it early because the board is not correct. I've chosen not to fill the vacancies, but to go the full Monty, so to speak, because the board, I think, was due early next year. So we've chosen that we are replenishing it now. And then what that means is that between that period of replenishing the board and now and that period, the law provides that the CEO will steer the ship. How we anticipate it is that we go to the next cabinet committee, because I'm going to seek concurrence from cabinet. It's unfortunate that next week Wednesday is a holiday, because we are going to make the cabinet committee of next week Wednesday, and then make the subsequent cabinet the following week. So it means that it's really at 3 weeks of this situation continuing, and we should have a board in place in the next 3 weeks. But with your permission, Chair, let me invite the interim DG just to take us through, and the team, the sequence of events and where we are. With your permission, Chair, Mr. Subesh Pillay will take us through. Thanks.
Okay. DG.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, members of the...
DG, over to you. But, excuse me for that. But the minister will also come in again, so as to be able to explain everything. But I will allow the delegation or the delegate to the DG to just have something on terms of what the minister is saying. But the fact of the matter, we want the minister to be the one who explains everything to us. But over to you, DG.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good evening to members of the committee, Minister, and colleagues on the line. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me the opportunity to address you on the matter at hand. As Minister indicated, I mean, in the more medium past, NECSA was one of the entities that was besieged by many problems. The current board, as you have it, was introduced, and ever since they had taken office, as Minister says, their term is ending now in January of 26, so they're near end of term. Sorry, but for the period that they had been in control of the ship, there has been a demonstrable and incremental improvement in both the governance of the entity, the SOC, but more importantly in terms of the outputs and the profitability. And I think members would be well aware that we were beginning to see more than green shoots of the resurrection of NECSA and its restoration to its historic high. In the past 2 months, and I must say it's really unfortunate that the manner in which this sequence of events happened, really almost like an avalanche, in many respects unanticipated, given what I've just described as what had been the conditions in the board up to now. But in the past 2 months, a number of things happened. The first sort of trigger, if you like, was the fact that the minister had received a whistleblower complaint through a hotline, and having received that whistleblower complaint, I must say the nature of the complaint, without delving into the substance, was really not of any significant nature. It makes allegations that the CEO and the chair, because of their history together, have a cozy relationship, and as a result, they not support, but they join each other on trips. The chair is always with the CEO, and I mean that's really the summation of the complaint. Nevertheless, I mean it's a complaint, so we wouldn't dismiss it on the basis of how we evaluated it. Consistent with what the corporate governance process would have dictated, Minister then wrote back to the board to ask that it be duly investigated and that an outcome report be placed before Minister. Of course, as I say, the CEO and the chair are the persons implicated, so it wouldn't make sense to send it to the board that is presided over by the people who are implicated. And so what Minister opted to do, and again consistent with what the sound corporate governance principles required, was that it asked the chair of the subcommittee of the board, the ethics subcommittee, to investigate that matter. I should just say the entity has not come back to us on that whistleblower complaint. And of course, I mean, the anticipation was that they would process it and put an outcomes report before the minister. Concurrent to that, the CEO and the executive management team of the entity had tabled a report before the board. That report sought to introduce a pay parity, and in the report they essentially motivates why the pay structure of the NECSA executive should be adjusted to essentially right size what the remuneration packages to the management team should have been, and they provide a motivation before the board. The board considers that matter. The one issue that gets to be raised is the adequate funding. Of course, that is confirmed that there is funding available to give effect to that restructuring. The board then duly approves that structure, that amendment rather to the pay packages, the remuneration packages, and the executive team then, of course, proceeds to implement this. As they do that, a follow-up meeting of the board is convened, and there's an allegation placed before the board that, in fact, that which the CEO reported as being available funding was incorrect. And I mean, on the narrative of the board, the CEO had misled the board. And what the board then does is to institute a internal forensic investigation. That investigation is undertaken. The serious the timing at which this happens, of course, is now concurrent to the end of year out closure of the financials and the end of year procedures. And of course, this is the point at which the Auditor General is now interacting with the management team to conclude the audit. This is the financial audit for the year. So when the team that's doing the internal audits attempts to engage with the management team, there's a request that's placed before the investigators or the auditors, if you like, to say, look, we are at the point now where we're literally on the cusp of a clean audit. We need to conclude this process. So allow us the space to conclude so that we obtain the clean audit, and then we will make every effort to cooperate with the internal audit to get to an outcome of that's consistent with what the board required. In other words, to understand whether or not there was in fact funding for this thing. Nevertheless, in spite of that, that request, the internal audit team finds it appropriate to conclude its work. In other words, the first major area of deficiency with that report is that it negates the Audi Altram Partem rule and does not afford the opportunity, or in fact, not doesn't afford, but does not reflect the views of the people against whom allegations are made. And that report concludes in that way and is presented before the board. The board then takes a decision to place the CEO under cautionary suspension, and that is the resolution of the board. Now, what follows in the immediate aftermath of that decision is that there are a number of resignations that flow from following that decision of the board. The first of which is the chairperson of the board, who tenders a resignation, and then there are 3 subsequent resignations in close sequencing that are tendered. Immediately after the board, the chair tendered his resignation. Of course, the board had written to, rather the chair had written to the minister to say he wishes to resign. Of course, the minister ultimately is the authority that will receive and accept or decline that resignation. And what minister then asks is, can we just hold on to whatever the reasoning is behind these resignations, allow ourselves an opportunity to reconvene as the board, and have a discussion on what the issues are so that we can deal with this thing in a more prudent, in a manner that doesn't erode and undermine the integrity that's now been reinstalled. And I mean, this now literally happens in the week that we receive word that NECSA has received an unqualified audit with no matters of emphasis, if you like, a clean audit. Some of the members do, in response to that request, including the chair, retract their resignation letters. A further, another member retracted and then subsequently reinstated the resignation. At this point, the CEO and the CFO are served with a notice of intention to suspend, and in fact, they asked to put reasons before the board why they should not be placed on precautionary suspension. And immediately thereafter, the hearings are scheduled and they convene to disciplinary hearings. Now, material here is the following. One, that the CEO of an entity, an SOC, is appointed by the minister, obviously through cabinet. And so the only authority that can initiate any effort to relinquish the CEO of that capacity is the minister or the executive authority in this instance. Now, none of this is communicated, not in the form of a request. There is a letter that's eventually placed before minister. It's not a request to say, Minister, we've found the following, we're putting it before you, may you please apply your mind. It's simply to say to Minister, these are the sequence of events, and the CEO is now is poised to be placed under precautionary suspension. In response thereto, the CEO and the CFO then institute a legal proceeding, essentially to ask the court for an order to interdict the action on the basis that it is unlawful, and well, on the basis essentially it is unlawful. Papers are served on the chair, well, the board, the company secretary, and members of the board, and they're given a period of time consistent with the rules of court to respond to that. In the period that this happens, as I say, Minister had asked for a meeting with the collective of the board, and that meeting is, in the meantime, that meeting gets to be scheduled. The chair was in the meeting, a number of board members were in the meeting, and essentially what they ventilated in that meeting was the displeasure in the manner in which this whole thing was handled. Eventually the meeting was not intended to do anything other than for Minister to establish the facts of what had transpired, the sequencing of events, what informed the decision, and essentially where were the fault lines that led to what we saw in a short period of time. In that meeting, I mean, on the back of Minister's commitment that we have got every intention, the Minister has every intention to ensure that we act in the most appropriate manner, and that he would then come back. The CEO and the CFO makes the concession in that meeting that they would then, on the strength of Minister's commitment to resolve the matter amicably and consistent with good governance principles, that they would withdraw their action. Because, I mean, that would have left us with a different set of problems, where you would now have had the executive litigating against a board which is appointed by the Minister, and in fact, invariably they would have to cite the Minister in those proceedings, just on account of the fact that the Minister is the custodian of the board. So in light of all of that, and on the basis of the discussion that happened in that meeting, the action was in fact withdrawn, the CEO and the CFO withdrew the action, and that rendered the application moot forthwith. So what that left us was with a board which, as Minister has already explained, did not have a quorum, because in spite of the fact that you had members retracting the resignation, there were two members who remained, who sustained their resignation, which left the board essentially without a quorum. Now, we contemplated a number of options on how do we proceed to close that gap. We've looked at what it will mean in the instance where the board is unable to meet or is unable to discharge its duties and responsibilities, and how that could be remedied in the most amicable and appropriate manner under our legislation. So, and as Minister has already explained, it was just, I guess, opportune that we had already gone through, for reasons Minister explained, the process of advertising and issued a call for nominations for the board. And then what we opted to do was to, rather than to drag the matter out further than where we already had it, was to then proceed to do what we would have in any event have done by November, and that is to process the substantive replacement of the board. Where we are at now, we have looked at the submissions received. We've compiled a shortlisting of those. We've placed those shortlisted before Minister, and we are now ready to process that submission back to Cabinet to confirm to consider and confirm the appointments, or as Minister would have recommended to Cabinet. And of course, following that, we will proceed to give effect to the appointments. They are, in terms of what the enabling legislation, the National Nuclear Act provides, is that the Minister appoints the chair and between 5 and 7 members of the board, and 1 member is then appointed from the department, in the instance, obviously, the DEE, and then 1 member is appointed from DIRCO. So the letter to the representatives from the department and DIRCO, Minister will then obviously consider and make a determination in terms of the department's representative. And insofar as DIRCO is concerned, Minister will then communicate with his counterpart, the Minister for DIRCO, and seek that nomination for confirmation. And that should allow us to restore the board by mid of October. The last point, Chair, is to just address the matter of what happens in the intervening period. Of course, the law does not allow a vacuum to exist. The PFMA does provide for that eventuality in the instance where an SOC or a board of a public entity, for whatever reason, does not have a board. The succession of power then transfers to the CEO, and there's a mechanism through which that authority gets to be transferred. And so, as we proceed to conclude the cabinet memo, we'll give effect to that proposition as set out in the PFMA, and just so that we don't leave any governance challenges in the absence of the board. Chairperson, I think that is really the account of what had transpired and where we are at present, and how we will then proceed to remedy the situation. With your permission, Chair, Minister, the colleagues on the line, there's in particular, well, there are other colleagues, but in particular, the DDG responsible for entity oversight, and the head of legal services that supports that work, that oversight unit, Dr. Bagwana and Mr. Ramokgopa are both on the line. Chair, with your permission, I'll ask if they want to add anything. We do that, allow them to do that, and then we'll hand over back to you, Chair, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Anything that you would love to add so that I can give over to the honorable members? Doc?
Chairperson, this is Kubashni. Good evening,
Okay.
honorable members and Chairperson and colleagues. I think ADG has covered it quite succinctly, and I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Other person?
Good evening,
Okay.
Chairperson. This is Ramokgopa. Good evening,
Okay.
Chairperson. Good evening, Minister, and
Good evening.
good evening to all honorable members. I am happy with the account presented by the ADG. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thing, Minister, that they have left out?
No, that's the full account there. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Now, let's go to the honorable members to ask or comment and interact with the presentations. Presentation done by the department and also the minister. I've spoken the hand of Honorable Milem, followed by Honorable Olsen. Then I will look for other hands. Honorable Babdi, for now, 3 hands for now. Then I'll give another round for other honorable members to interact. Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me start by saying that I appreciate the Minister's willingness to come and give us this information and share this information with us. But honestly, it's been rather difficult to follow the timeline of events and exactly what triggered what and what happened when and who spoke to who and who did what, when and where and how and what. So I would appreciate a written report of what triggered this and what the current situation is. That's the first point. The second is this: what is the current status of the board? In other words, we've had people that have resigned. Is the board currently quorate? If it's not, who is in charge at NECSA? Who is the governance of NECSA at the moment? Which brings me to my last question, and that is this: given that the entity is going through its AFS process and annual reporting process at the moment, who's going to approve that if there is not a board in place? So what are the plans to address that shortfall in the short term? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Madam. All person.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the DG and DDG and Minister for the presentation. Chairperson, I know at some point before any action, before this whole issue just started unraveling, was that one of the board members wrote to the Minister, and I think the Minister must be honest with us that he never responded, and that is when things started getting out of hand. And I don't want to go too much into that because I know there are some people that should be going for disciplinary hearings or should be disciplined, because it cannot be that NECSA is constantly going through this type of issue. This is not the first time that NECSA is having problems. Happened in the past, but over and above, Chairperson, this is the problem with cronyism. You appoint cronies and they go and they think they can do as they wish in these state-owned entities. That's the big problem with most state-owned entities. You appoint ANC cadres there and they go and they create havoc. They become laws unto themselves, give themselves massive salary increases. But other than that, Chairperson, I want to, about the person that wrote to the Minister, I'm hoping that, this person did it wanting to maintain the organization and follow the proper processes. So I hope nothing is going to happen to him. And I also hope that everything is done to protect whistleblowers who report any alleged maladministration or tender irregularities. And I want to know what kind of protection exists to protect these whistleblowers. And how does NECSA respond to public scrutiny and media reports concerning these serious governance issues? I mean, to have a state-owned entity without a functioning board, it's embarrassing. Then also, I'd like to know, what is the status of employees like Vusi Malebana, who was unlawfully suspended after raising governance issues? And when we suspend people, it's with full salary but no work. So this comes at quite a cost to the government, to taxpayers. So I want to be given some assurance from the Minister that people who raise issues of governance, maladministration, or corruption within this entity, that they are not going to be the ones who take the fall or who gets dealt with instead of the real culprits. Chairperson, I would also like to know, does NECSA have a robust performance monitoring system in place with clear financial and non-financial key performance indicators and targets? And are these tied to executive accountability? And how often is NECSA's performance evaluated against these objectives? And what are the consequences of failure to meet these objectives? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Paulson. I hope the department is taking notes of the questions. I'm really unable to quickly take note of the questions because I would love these questions to be answered, all of them, to the satisfactory point. I'll give over to Honorable Bapti and then followed by Honorable Vufu. Then I'll give over to Honorable Tring. I'll look at other hands that have been raised. Over to you, Honorable Bapti.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to all. Chair, there are two issues here, and that is, one is the board that is now defunct and needs to be replaced. The other one is the salary increases. Now, the issue of resolving the board is a procedural matter which clearly is in hand. But the other issue is not being addressed here. And in my experience, I'll speak plainly, is that when officials move their eyes to money and take their eyes off the ball, operations begin to go wrong. And it would seem to me that that was primarily the board's concern. Now, at the center of the precautionary suspension is the CEO. And in terms of what the DDG is saying, in terms of the PFMA, in the absence of the board, that authority then cedes to the CEO. So we also heard that there is an internal audit report, which reflects that the funds allegedly that were there to support the remuneration package that they approved, in fact, was not there. So my question has to do with what exactly were these increases for both the CEO and the CFO? And then what were the increases for the other staff at the same time? And then what is the department and the minister's intended actions with regards to the precautionary suspension, or the issue that brought about the precautionary suspension? Maybe the salary increases, which the internal audit report appears not to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bapti. Honorable Ngosi, followed by Honorable Tring.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, first,
Honorable Tring, excuse me. Hello, are you Honorable Tring?
No, it's Vusi and then Honorable Vusi and then Tring, Chair.
Yeah.
Honorable Tring, okay.
No, it's
Okay,
yeah.
thank
yeah.
you, thank you.
Yes, yes, Chair.
It's Honorable Ngosi. Honorable Ngosi now. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I will first maybe wonder if honorable member earlier who has just said that there is ANC people in the board, does he has any proof that there is membership of the ANC in that board, which is, I don't think it's correct, and we cannot say something that we're not even sure about. Chair, I will also wanted maybe to have just a question, one question that I wanted maybe the board maybe to assist me about is that after all this crisis that happened at NECSA, what is the potential impact on the entity? And also I wanted to check if what just happened now at NECSA, has we ever faced a similar controversy before, where we will have so many board members resigning, and how was that sorted before? Those are the only questions I have, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Nkosi. I disregarded what was said by Honorable Paulson, because a board member is a board member, whether he or she comes from whatever organization. I didn't want to entertain it, but that you've noted it. But let's move on, because we're not going to hold on by this thing of wherever they are coming from and all those stuff. We are talking about the board members of NECSA now. Can we proceed to Honorable?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, again, firstly, my apologies. I did indicate that we were running late. Parliament finished late. And so it was a little bit of a struggle as well for me. I've also had to change gadgets as soon as I came in, because I was struggling on my phone a bit to actually hear clearly what has been said. So essentially, I've kind of caught the gist of what has happened, where there was a whistleblower, and then also internal disagreements on the board, and potential litigation that was averted. So that much I kind of got. But I think some of the inner intricacies of, I think, as Honorable Milam also indicated, what is it that led to what? I also may have missed, but I put it down to me traveling. I was on the road when I logged into the meeting, and then came home and switched gadgets. So I would also like to have just a broader view of what actually took place. And so that written report, I think, would be welcome from my side as well, Chair. My concern, however, also is two concerns. The one concern, firstly, is with boards, whenever there's a change, is one of institutional memory and institutional knowledge that sometimes and somehow gets lost. So what measures are being placed to ensure that that kind of institutional knowledge, that smooth transition indeed will be there, so that we don't have NECSA going back to where it was in terms of the poor audit reports as in the previous years. So that's one. But the other, Chair, I think also has to do with salaries. I think it's a problem where you actually have individuals, whether it's on the board, who are sitting and, in a sense, determining their own salary increases. But I think that this speaks to perhaps a broader challenge in terms of your PFMA and even within your MFMAs. Pardon me, we have challenges where, I know in some municipalities, some of your municipal managers were actually earning more than the president, and yet those municipalities were actually in a state of no longer going concerns, as the Auditor General has indicated. So I think on a broad stroke, we certainly need to look at processes that are transparent processes, particularly when it comes to salary increases. And perhaps those salary increases also ought to be handled by an independent group, an independent panel, and not individuals sitting around a table deciding what their own increases are. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Dring. Now it's Honorable Brian Levy. Let me, Honorable Singh, I apologized from the beginning on what has happened in terms of the house sitting that took some time than what we anticipated. Then I apologized to every person that managed to join the meeting at 8. By that time, we thought that the meeting will adjourn at least 7:30. So 30 minutes was going to be for us to change the gadgets, understanding that sometimes we travel 1 hour. It's just that myself, I didn't attend the house, so I attend the house virtually. So I managed to got early to the meeting. So everybody is apologized for that. We didn't see it coming. We thought that will make time, but I apologize for everyone. Thank you. So don't worry. Carry on. Ask what you think that it's needed to be asked. If you feel you want to go for a second round after the responses, it's still another time. It will depend on us on when do we want to finish this meeting. Honorable Brian, over to you. Honorable Brian. Honorable Brian. Honorable Brian.
I've muted Mr. Molefe. Yeah, I've muted him.
Mr. Molefe. Let me say Mr. Molefe, not Honorable.
Hello?
No, Arigo.
Yeah, I've muted Mr. Molefe.
Honorable Molefe.
Yes.
Yeah, so that you can just request him
to
stand where the network is. Oh, you can
It sounds
carry
if it's
on
better now,
and start afresh.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Molefe, it's better now.
Yes, we hear you now.
Oh,
Start from the beginning again, Mr. Molefe.
Honorable
Still
Molefe.
bad.
Honorable Molefe.
No, your reception is still bad, Mr. Molefe. We can't hear you. Mr. Molefe, we can't hear you. The reception is bad. No. We can't hear you, Mr. Molefe.
Honorable Molefe. We've lost.
Yes, Chairperson.
Now,
yeah, change the position. Start afresh, Honorable Ma'am.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I was saying, honorable members, that we must remember NECSA is a nuclear facility. And nuclear facilities are special organizations because of the nature of nuclear. So it's not just any legal entity, it's a nuclear facility. Even though the reactor that is being operated by NECSA is a research reactor, it is still a nuclear facility. So I just want to understand from the department, what is with these developments, what are the implications on the licensing conditions
of the of NECSA. What does the license to operate the nuclear facility say about not having a board or these kind of problems that they're having? Number one. Number two, this incident, I would imagine, is reportable to at least the IAEA or to some international nuclear organizations that are supervising South Africa. And I just want to know there is such a requirement. But even if about this is a significant nuclear incident, corporate governance thing. It's because it involves a nuclear facility. I think it is considered a nuclear incident of significance. So I just want to understand from that angle our responsibilities to the regulator or NECSA's responsibility, department's responsibility to the regulator as shareholder, and secondly to our international commitments to the nuclear community. What are the implications of this development and whether we have reported it and what the implications are going to be? I don't know if they have done that assessment. And then thirdly, from an operational point of view, not having a board is part of not having sort of supervisory capability in a nuclear facility that has been imperiled, that has been disabled. So from a nuclear operation point of view, what does that mean? I mean, it's like not having one of the managers in a nuclear plant when you don't have the board. It's one of the nuclear safety measures is that there is a board to supervise what is happening there from a nuclear point of view. It is not as serious as it would be if it was in Quebec, but still, it is a nuclear reactor, even though it is just a research reactor they're in. So, from a security as well as a safety point of view, what are the risks that this situation presents to the entity and to the government? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Brian. Oh, it was difficult to hear you, but ultimately, at last, we managed to capture your questions. Now, the time for the response, it's over to you, Minister and the department.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to members for the questions. I am going to answer as many questions as possible, and the team will come back. Maybe just a bigger question that is not necessarily uniquely NECSA, but something that is in the public domain. I know that you make the point that we're not discussing political party affiliation, we're discussing NECSA. I think that point is accurate, and also the point that Honorable Nkosi makes. But I want to reinforce it because I think it can't go unchallenged. The point raised by Honorable Paulsen. The idea that people who have shown their colors, political colors, or an affiliation to a political organization, and therefore they are ineligible to be appointed to a board, is incorrect. There's nothing in law that says that. And I'm going to give you a typical example. The foremost medical nuclear scientist in this country, the number one nuclear scientist in this country, served with me when I was the chairperson of the ANC in the region. He led one of the branches here. If that person were to lift his hand and say, I want to be considered to be a member of the board of NECSA, I'll appoint him with my eyes closed, because I can show you what his credentials are. They have nothing to do with his political party affiliation. So I think that thing must be put to bed, because we get to be threatened all the time. That is cadre deployment and the like. There's nothing of the sort. As long as you are able to demonstrate that the person has got the requisite ability, and in fact is the best amongst peers, then we can go ahead and appoint. And if there's someone who wants to take forward the matter and use whatever avenues are available, I think those people are free to do that. Having said that, I'm not familiar with anyone in the current NECSA board, even the remaining members of the board who are openly affiliated to the ANC. But I thought I must make a point, a principal point, because we can't cower all the time. We are being threatened that people can't be associated with the ANC in particular, because that's the point in insinuation that is being made. We've got the most capable, some of the most capable and competent people that are deserving of helping the country to ensure that we address the issues of development. So I will not shy away from identifying individuals who are the best amongst their peers in relation to the skills that are required for them to contribute. I will defend that publicly. And we have also seen the opposite is true, and that there are people who have been given assignments like the immediate past situation we had in ESCOM, someone with an incredible deficit of knowledge on how power systems run gets to be given the responsibility to run a complex organization like ESCOM and collapses it. And we're cleaning after that person. Nothing is being said about the person. So we will not tolerate that. What we will do is to ensure that those that are capable are appointed, as we have done now with Mr. Marukani, as we have done with the chairperson of the board and the board of ESCOM, and as we will do with the board of NECSA that we are going to appoint. And our consideration has little to do with what the political party the person belongs to, what is his or her ideological orientation. Is the person best equipped to do the work at hand and drive this organization in the direction that is desired? If the answer is yes, then we can confirm the qualification, the experience, and all of that. That person will be appointed. We'll do that with no equivocation or fear. So I thought I must make that point. And then in relation to who's in charge, so the point was made earlier on by the interim DG that what the law provides for is that in a situation where you have a board that is incorrect, and therefore the board does not have is not legally competent to make any decisions, then it's the CEO that assumes that responsibility. And I've made the point that the lacuna will be for a period of, I think, maximum three weeks, because the next opportunity for us to present at Cabinet Committee is in a fortnight's time, and a week after that fortnight, then we go to Cabinet to ratify the decision of the Cabinet Committee. So I'm confident that given the gravity of the situation, for the reason that Honorable Maylam has made, that we need to be approving. There are issues of governance that needs to happen. So given the agency of the matter, I'm confident that it will see safe passage through cabinet. Like I made the point earlier on, that it's just a matter of coincidence that we are confronted with this situation at a period where we had already gone out to invite the public to raise their hands, those who want to serve in NECSA, in anticipation of the duration of the current board coming to an end in January. So we want to do things in time. So what we're simply doing is to bring the appointments forward. Like I said, the cabinet submission is ready, so we will be able to submit and in about 3 weeks we'll have a decision. And then there are issues that have to do with so The interim DG makes an important point. So let me reiterate. I do accept that perhaps there are limitations in consuming the information before you because of you don't have a written report before you. So it's fine. We will submit an account of what we are sharing with you, so that the portfolio committee is having something before it that is in writing, that will form the basis for reference going forward. So that much I accept. But this is the point I want to make, is that I asked the board to say that, first is I'm not familiar with some of the names that have been raised in this meeting. So Honorable Paulson makes to reference to Mr. Vusi Malevana, or what I might be getting the surname wrong. I don't know who are the people at NECSA, so I wouldn't know anyone below the executives. And secondly, there is no single board member. I repeat, there is no board member who has written to me raising whatever issue that he or she feels requires the attention of the minister. The only communication I've had is from the chair of the board when he was expressing his intention to resign, and also other members who had written through to the team that oversees the boards of their resignation. So that's the only communication I've had. So I've never had any communication from any board member. The only communication I received from NECSA, it was an anonymous whistleblower, and he or she brings to my attention the fact that the allegation that the CEO and the chair of the board are close, and then arrives at the substantiate that by saying they take overseas trips together. By the way, when the chair takes an overseas trip, or a member of the board, they generally write to me to say that this is the trip they want to undertake. I've been a CEO myself of two entities. Proximity to the chair of the board is a natural occurrence in the nature of running organizations of this nature. The interface between management and the board principally happens between the chair of the board and the CEO between meetings. So invariably, these are people who are going to be working very close to each other. And then we get to learn much later that because they worked at ESCOM 20 years ago, I mean, really. But that point, the anonymous tip doesn't make reference to the fact that they worked at the ESCOM before. It simply says that they are too close to each other, and they take overseas trips together. As the interim DG makes the point, so we don't want to be dismissive, because I don't want to be a subject of discussion myself. Someone comes and says, I brought to the attention of the minister the following, and the minister has not taken action to address that. So what did I do? I immediately dispatched that anonymous tip off to the board. And because the chair stands accused, if you like, in that submission, then I asked the chair of Audit and Risk to investigate the matter. So that's what I asked the team to do. And then on the issue of salaries, early in the year, I think March or so, I might be getting the month wrong, but early in the year, at least the first half of the year, the CEO escalates a matter to me. In that escalation, he makes reference to the point that since he was appointed some 2 or 3 years ago, there had been a discussion about his remuneration a year after he was appointed. And in fact, the policy of the board does provide that the CEO must be remunerated at the second level. And that's the policy of the board. So he makes reference to what the policy says. So I then don't express an opinion on what the CEO sends to me. I refer the matter back to the chair of the board to say, I've received this matter. Please address it and provide me with the feedback in relation to this. And then the feedback comes and say, no, we have remedied the situation. In fact, what the CEO was raising is consistent with the provisions of their policy. And in fact, they are, as you know, that NECSA is a group of companies. They were able to show that there were CEOs of subsidiary companies whose salaries were adjusted, and some of the executives, their salaries were adjusted. And the CEO was an anomaly. And that's why the CEO escalated this matter. And in fact, he does raise the matter with me to say, but for other members, it has been attended to, but mine is delayed. So I asked the board to attend to that matter and give me feedback. And the feedback comes back and says that, yes, we have addressed the situation. So the salary has been appropriately adjusted in accordance with what their own policy provides for. And then they had spent the majority of the year just meeting and not discussing strategic issues. They were meeting to discuss issues of salary of the CEO until they arrive at that determination. I get to know about this series of meetings when I had called the meeting of the board members to come and brief me on the situation that is unfolding at NECSA. As the interim DG makes the point that I did request, let's meet and understand what the issues are. And it's at that point that the remaining members of the board brings to my attention that for the majority of the year, this is what we've been discussing, toing and froing about the salary of the CEO until it was addressed. And so what was the tipping point? In my calculation, the tipping point is here. As the interim CEO makes a point, they arrive at a decision that there's some case to answer by the CEO, and then they decide that they write to the CEO expressing their intention to suspend the CEO. So I called for a meeting to say the appointing authority is the authority that is equipped, legally competent to do the suspension. So please come and explain how we arrive at this decision to suspend. First, I don't know what the charges are, what is being placed before the CEO. There's nothing wrong if the board comes and say, look, these are the charges. We feel very strong that this matter should be taken further. The CEO has a case to answer, and we are of the opinion that as we are examining the veracity of what is before us and giving the CEO an opportunity to respond, we are of the opinion that he should be suspended. Then I'll apply my mind and make a determination. So before I do that, they proceed and act in the manner that they have. And then when I ask, let's meet and discuss, then there's a flurry of resignations. There's no other way of explaining it other than people not being confident of their ability to substantiate why they've taken a decision that they've taken. And that's what led to the board being incorrect. And in fact, when I met with the three remaining members of the board, I think that's the point that was impressed that this is the situation that is confronting us. And then in relation to the issues of that this is a reportable matter to the regulator. So the only obligation that the NECSA team had to do was to inform the regulator of the change in leadership. So to Honorable Molefe's question, and that was done. That was communicated to the regulator in relation to the change of leadership. So that has been done. The CEO had confirmed with me that that communication was directed to the regulator. And then I want to see if there. Yeah, I think on my account, these are the questions that were I've recorded. Maybe just with your permission to as the interim DG and Kubeshni and the team if there's anything that I have left out of the answers. If there's a question that remains unanswered, I think the team will attend to that. But on my account, I've answered the ones that I've penned down. Thanks, Chair. With your permission, if the interim DG and the team can come through.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Acting Teacher.
Chairperson, thanks. I think Minister has covered comprehensively. Just I think the only one really minor question was the issue around in this replacement process, how do we retain institutional knowledge? I think the system itself is designed in such a manner that the system for institutional knowledge is entrenched within the organization. But I think there's also, when we do the replacements, one of the matters that the Minister would give consideration to, of course, is part of that continuity and institutional knowledge retention, is how we manage the retention of some of the board members, so that you have that element of institutional knowledge retention. Which I think the rest Minister has covered more than comprehensively. So there's nothing further from my side. I'm not sure if the team may want to add anything further. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, maybe on that, thanks, I forgot to mention that. I think one of the biggest problems now with the crisis that had happened, I think what the crisis does, it gives us an opportunity to cast a light on what could be some of the underlying challenges. So if you look at the profile of the NECSA board, is that you have a board that is charged with running one of the 3 active reactors in the country, with only one member of the board who's got the knowledge of the nuclear industry, that being the chairperson of the board. So invariably what you're going to have in the board meetings is not about the strategic direction of the organization. What does the nuclear energy complex look like, and what are the opportunities going forward? You will be discussing salaries, because that's an issue where people have got comfort to discuss. But if we were to discuss the kind of reactors, what is the kind of technologies that we are seeing, multiple reactors, those conversations will not happen, because you have a collective body that does not possess the knowledge in relation to that industry. And with the nuclear, the research of the nuclear industry globally, and how we want to position South Africa in the nuclear energy complex, and the inherent advantages that we have. So you'll see that the board that's going to be appointed is going to have a presence of scientists, people who are going to help us to steer this in the right direction. What they will do, they'll spend little time on salaries, because they'll look at what the policies say, whether they can afford that, and make that decision, and spend their time on the strategic direction of the organization, not petty issues that people work together at ESCOM, they are friends. What is the problem? If I'd worked with someone in an organization, you then substantiate what is the basis of you arriving at a determination that people are friends, and therefore, as a result of their friendship, they are harming or injuring the interest of the organization. You are going to have those discussions, for as long as people don't have the comfort of discussing big strategic issues that take the organization forward. Am I suggesting that those issues are insignificant? No, I'm not suggesting that. But the policies are designed to respond to that. And when the situation arises, you refer to what the policies say, and then you take account of what the moment suggests from a financial point of view. Can we afford it? That? Then you put the issue to bed, and you focus on the real core issues of what the board needs to do, which is about steering or articulating the strategic direction, and then from there overseeing if the management team is able to discharge its responsibility. And then there was a question on performance. We do performance reviews over every quarter. Comes to me, there's a a regimented process, how we do that, very robust. And NECSA has been keeping that to that the cadence of reporting. And NECSA has been doing very well against the targets that they would have set for them as a shareholder. And we do, and they are reportable. Some of the underperformance, and of course internally they would have built their own performance management system. It is on that basis that the CEO writes to me and say the provisions of the policy makes the following. In relation to salary adjustment and performance, it says if you achieve the following, then you had to be remunerated at this level. Here's the evidence that the board itself has approved, and there's no intention on their part, at least at the time before they reconsidered their decision, to adjust it in accordance to what their policies say, and that policy, built in that policy, is the issues of performance. So the point I'm trying to make is that that dispensation exists in NECSA. So a board that is familiar with its own policies will discharge and prosecute these policies or decisions that are consistent with what their policies say. And then they can grapple with the more strategic questions on how we take this organization forward, because I think they've laid a sound basis. Now we're taking it to the next level. That should be the primary preoccupation of a board, in addition to the more governance issues. But the strategic questions are the ones that they must be seized with when they meet every quarter. And you found that they've met more than 5 times in a period of 7 times in a period of about 3 months. In 4 of those, the discussion is a salary, when in fact the provisions of their own policy directs what needs to be done. So why do you have to have 4 meetings just to discuss salary? I mean, it just doesn't add up. We are here. There's a silver lining is that we're getting hopefully a board that will be able to steer us in the right direction. Thanks, Chair.
Then I think let me also give the second round of follow-up. I will put it as such. I can see that in the chat box, Honorable Mulife has written something, but I'm giving all of them an opportunity. I don't know whether, Minister, you have touched a question that was asked about licensing, and I might have missed it. It's in the evening, you can remember. Let me give the second round, also give Honorable Brian to ask what he has written in the chat. Honorable Njabeling, followed by Honorable Maliam, and we'll also give an opportunity to Honorable Mliff.
Honorable Chair, I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
You are. Carry on. Thank you.
And, all right, thanks a lot for this opportunity. And I think, you know, I think the minister about this, you know, frequent, especially in state-owned boards, and most of the issues are relating to non-operational function, you know, in terms of board executive work required, vision, your mission of the organization, and driving the organization to. It's quite heartwarming to see that, you know, at the ministry level there is that awareness that we really have to steer these boards to a direction. One is we need to make a submission from an MK point of view that I think the minister should allow this board interviewing process to start at Parliament. They can do the aggregation of board representatives, you know, the advertising, the processing, but we need to interview these people and we need to give them a clear mandate, and we must make sure that we do
recommendation to the ministry and then do a recommendation or based on his own view. That's my submission and what we are putting forward in respect to this board crisis. Because in that process of the physical interviews that we would have with this, the candidates, we will be able to establish if these people are fit for purpose and right for environment and work. It will not be a situation where we are having a crisis where people are actually just selected on the basis of friendships and close relations and ties. We've had a situation like that in the past where people were just handpicked for boards and everything, but they didn't fully really sort of fit the mold. The second aspect of it is, this obsession of money. I think some of these boards must be actually brought to our environment. The work we do as MPs and public representatives, in comparison to what we get paid, it doesn't even compare. So if they are the people who are going to complain about money, they must come to us. We will tell them the work we put together for the amount of money we receive, which actually is a joke, right? And on those bases, they would understand that we're doing this for the passion and the love of public service and making sure that we are here as public representatives to make a difference. And anyone who works for the state, anyone who works for this parastatals should be made aware that you must come with a passion and the love of this work and environment you're doing. Money is not what we are chasing. We're not going to transform it or change it if we're going to be, and then how much sticks am I going to accumulate in order to be wealthy and rich? It is not the place for that. So they must either go somewhere else, in the private sector, in the other sector where they can find opportunities of that nature. But in the public sector, we are responsible for public purse and people's hard-earned livings out of taxes as well as their country. And we have to be responsible as leaders. So that's a number of issues that we need to be very clear on that part of appointments of board members. So the other aspect of it is, I still don't understand, Minister, that you've had this board and it's guided by a gentleman who would hold by now would have steered this board to its direction. He comes from ESCOM. He has incredible knowledge and wealth of wisdom in terms of the nuclear industry, and not only that, the electricity industry. But we haven't seen the board chair or even the board itself fighting to defend the nuclear industry and sector and pushing through in terms of policy and direction of these operations. We have now the 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power built. There's no such thing the work happens. We've got sites, 1,000 to 5,000 megawatts worth of nuclear build. We've had in the past a 10,000 megawatts nuclear build project kept on hold on the basis of a lie, where they literally fabricated a lie to say that the former president Jacob Zuma was actually creating a well-known fact that the nuclear industry, whatever transaction we do, is between government and government. So how possible is that going to be that the transactions in between were going to benefit families? We don't know. But that lie was made so public to a point where we were even told that there were bilateral backyard agreements entered between Russia, and we made Russia an enemy state. And since that time, South Africa has never gone back to the Russians and even apologized for what they caused in terms of Russia's reputation. That's number one. Now we have this process again, revived again, not looking at what was done before. I said it in one of the conferences that today, if we had taken that deal and had South Africa between Russia collaborate on those terms of collaboration, which I have seen the collaboration agreement and MOU, which was entered in between government at a bilateral level. If we had done that, South Africa's industry alone, the GDP of the country would have been sitting at nothing less than 5%. We would have been sitting at electricity generation of an additional 10,000 megawatts. That would have been operational by today. We would have been having a thriving employment environment and everything. But unfortunately, we have a lackluster leadership. And I know in the committee we're not supposed to be outright, but the problem is we have a lackluster leadership. The current leading party, which is the ANC, unfortunately lets us down continuously. Where they are supposed to be firm on a policy position, they allow all sorts of nefarious interests and ideas, where they even co-work with NGOs that are protecting and are preventing South Africa's economic and GDP growth. Where we've had problems where an NGO can come from nowhere. It come again from nowhere. It's the whole process at the state where we are supposed to be benefiting, and then it's a project that was meant for the people. And at the end of them, they live a good life. And then the rival economies, like for instance, your Germans, your European economies, your Asian economies, your American economies, actually enjoy the fact that we have missed an economic advantage and nothing has happened to them because they've used nefarious agenda interests and they've actually infiltrated us as a state through these particular initiatives. Whatever we start in nuclear is stopped. If you look at the whole nuclear blocking, it's one organization that works around the whole of Africa. 3 or 4 of them are little NGOs and CBOs, organizations that are established, and they are funded to stop every nuclear project around the world, especially in African countries. I've observed it. We've got already a report on that. And yet, the ANC fails to take a firm stand and say, this is our economic policy, we are going to defend it, and we are going to implement it. It's worse. The DA combined with the ANC are now even working together in disagreeing that nuclear should be prioritized. So when our people are going to ever be literally rescued out of this impasse of this lackluster leadership? You know, the points are silent on the fact that we need nuclear. It will be the zero, it will be zero emissions, it will improve the environment, etc. But now you have these organizations that are now bypassing us and undermining our sovereignty and imposing their will upon us, and nothing is done about that. And I want to ask the minister to really be honest with us, because giving us speeches and giving us hope does not build anything. We have a mess right now because the ANC spent 30 years giving speeches and giving literally statements of hope that has delivered nothing. We want to know where we are right now. Where are we going to go going forward? If this is not going to happen, then let's stop wasting time trying to work on something we know is going nowhere. There's not going to be a 10,000 nuclear mega build in South Africa. There's not going to be the promised 2,500 nuclear mega build by the minister in South Africa. There's not going to be the opportunity of developing another 4,500 megawatts of nuclear build.
Honorable Nshabelen, in conclusion.
These are the issues that should be grappling us. And our young people and youth receiving jobs is extremely important. In conclusion, Chair, I'm saying very nicely to say, can we get to the point where the ministry gives us direction and starts fighting for the nuclear sector, and then on top of it, gives this committee the opportunity to take part role in ensuring that we give direction in respect to this nuclear industry and sector. The minister gave us good words of saying people are fighting over salaries, and we empathize with you, Minister. Change the course of nuclear industry in South Africa.
Thank you. Honorable Milam.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, one of our jobs is to be legislators, and that means we should understand the legislation that we are responsible for. Now, there are a couple of pieces of legislation that govern this. And the first one is the Nuclear Regulator, the National Nuclear Regulator Act. That defines what is a nuclear incident. And it's where there is an unintended and uncontrolled exposure or radioactive leak, or where people or workers are exposed to radiation. It is not about a crisis of governance. Yes, there might be indirect consequences that a crisis of governance causes from a safety perspective. However, this is not a reportable nuclear incident as defined in the National Nuclear Regulator Act, and it's certainly not one that is governed by the IAEA, which in terms of international law and international precedent and international treaties. So we need to understand what our role is here. If we're going to hold people accountable, we need to understand that law. The second piece of legislation that we need to understand. And while I sympathize with Mr. Nchabaleng regarding Parliament's role in appointing boards of state-owned entities, and I do believe it's something that Parliament should take a greater role in, we actually need to look at what the legislation says. And here we need to go to the NECSA Act. And the NECSA Act says that the minister appoints the board. It doesn't give Parliament a role in that appointment process. So we can't just insert ourselves into something that is legislated. We have to change the legislation if we want it to be otherwise. And I think that any attempt to insert ourselves would be ultra vires, it would be unconstitutional, it would be illegal for us to try and insert ourselves into that role. That's the second thing. The third is we must not spread misinformation here. The 10,000 megawatt nuclear build that failed in 2016 and 2017 failed because the Western Cape High Court found that it had not followed due process as set out by our legislation. It had not followed the proper public participation processes, and therefore it was illegal and was set aside. And so we can't say that it's because there's no leadership. We can't say that it's because there was an NGO. We didn't follow the rules. And as such, we need to make sure that the rules are followed going forward. So I think that we need to be very careful about what we say and how we say it in this committee, because I've allowed for too long people to spread false rumors, and we cannot allow that to continue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mailem. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think that to some extent, Honorable Mailem has covered me somewhat, because when it comes to legislation, one of the benefits of serving on different committees is that you, for example, have a idea as to how on the committee, for example, of DGIC, when it came to the lottery board, the appointment there of the CEO and board members, the process had to be done through the committee. So the members of the committee had to be involved in the appointment. And I find it strange that, one would think that we would have a similar situation when it came to the sister departments, but it appears that as if it is not. And that's maybe something that we as legislators also need to look at. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. I don't see any other hand for now. Can we give over to the Minister for the responses and comments?
Chair,
Honorable Molif.
Before we give over, and that is that Honorable
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I said I'll
I
give
just
opportunity.
wanted to say something to Honorable Mailem, is that it is very narrow. Yes, it is very narrow to think that nuclear is only regulated by our domestic law. It isn't. It is regulated by all sorts of conventions and all sorts of international law, common law. And governance is very central to nuclear safety.
Brian.
And governance is very central to nuclear safety and to nuclear security, which talks to the non-party in
Chair, on a point of order.
Treaty. So don't read South African domestic law and think that you know about nuclear law.
Chair, on a point of order.
Honorable Milam.
Chair, first of all, I was very clear about what I said. I said that in terms of international treaties, in terms of IAEA law and agreements with South Africa, a nuclear incident is very carefully defined. That was my very opening statement. I also said that in terms of South African legislation, a nuclear incident is defined. There is no reporting requirement when a board is in quorate. However, as the minister has indicated, they have in fact reported it to the nuclear regulator in South Africa. So we mustn't try and invent laws that don't apply here. This is not a nuclear incident, and it does not apply to this situation. That's the first thing. The second is that if Honorable Molefe wants to make a statement, he must make sure that he is in a place where we can hear what he is saying, because honestly, what came across was garbled. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Milam, we have questions from the department and the minister. I don't think there's a need for you and Honorable Mifi to answer one another. Please, you know that I don't like this thing of point of order in meetings. Allow everyone to say whatever that he or she thinks to say. Can we give over to the minister and the department? But unfortunately, Mr. Molefe, Honorable Molefe.
Yes,
Honorable Molefe.
Yes, Chair.
Honorable Brian. Yes,
Yes,
it is unfortunate that we were interested. Yeah, we were also interested to hear yourself, but unfortunately the network on your side is not clear enough. But we managed to hear there and there. But the reality of the matter, maybe I requested you to change the position where you are to move to another corner of the house. Thank you. I don't know whether the minister heard what you were saying, but I think we had some parts. Okay, let's give over to the minister and to answer the questions. Now, I don't mind even if we will stop at 1 o'clock or 2 a.m. Just want all of us to have an opportunity to put all the questions and also the comments that they would love to. I thought we will finish this meeting, but I'm not going to rush to comment and also to discuss this issue, because we've been longing forward and looking forward to have this meeting. So this is the opportunity. No other chance we will have to deal with this matter. Over to you, Minister.
No, thanks, Chair. Maybe just to say, Honorable Milham helps me in answering the questions in relation to how the boards are chosen. So he does state correctly the applicable legislation, and also with regards to what is reportable. So I don't have to repeat what he has said, because I think he said it eloquently. And I thought today was about the board, and the statement that the Crown Prince Honorable Nchabile makes in relation to the remuneration of the board. I think it's a conversation that ought to be had. I do agree with him in a large part, because I think how I see people's contribution to the boards is really less about that being their primary income, but making a contribution to the country in that little space of the board. And I'm really saying little space in inverted commas, because some of them are major. I mean, the board of ESCOM and some of the water boards, they are very consequential to the growth of the country. But what we are beginning to see as a trend is that people are serving on multiple boards. So they are just professional board members. And one of the things that Cabinet agreed to is that when you make a submission with regards to the people that you are putting forward as potential board members, you also need to give an indication of which other boards are they serving on. so that you have a situation wherein people are able to dedicate as much time as possible to board discussions, preparations, and they can be able to make quality contributions. I mean, as an anecdote, just to share with you, when we're with the members of the board now, the remaining ones in the meeting that I convened, they make the point that there was one board member. He was physically present in the board meeting, but he had his headsets on. He had his computer on. He was in another board meeting. So essentially he's paid twice. He's in their meeting physically and obviously not participating, contributing. He's in the other board meeting, obviously not contributing because he can't speak because he's physically in this meeting. So that's a crisis that is confronting us across. And I think that as legislators, we need to have a view about this and take a dim view about some of the things that we're seeing. And of course, I mean, some of these things have to do with the choice of people we place on the boards. And that's why I made the point earlier on that what matters for me is someone who's an expert in relation to a subject expert so that they can make quality contributions. And you'll find that these subject experts, they've got a lot to lose if organizations go south, things go pear-shaped because they've got the reputation to protect. And I think that's the caliber of people that we should be placing before the board, and they should not escape any kind of scrutiny. But yes, I mean, as Honorable Mayhem makes the point that the law does prescribe how these board appointments are made. So if there's any adjustment that ought to be made, I think as legislators we can initiate that. I know that with the NNR, or one of them, yeah, I think it's the NNR, I stand to be corrected, but one of the boards within our stable, they require that we must go through a process as suggested by Honorable Crown Prince in Chabeli. I think it's an amendment that we just made recently, so it will go through that process of you interviewing and then bringing to the minister, if you like, a short list, and it is from that short list that the minister can make the final appointment. So that one is defined that way. And then in relation to what has happened over the past 30 years or so, I really want to leave this conversation, that debate, when we come to share with you the IRP, because I think that will be a moment for us to have a much more deeper conversation about what constitutes the energy mix, the choices that we have made.
We've lost you, Minister.
We moved from the levels of penetration at 36%. As I speak to you, of course, the Stats SA puts that number at 94%, but we think that it could be 2 percentage points less than that, 92, even 90%. But still, I mean, let's use the lower number from 36% of penetration to 92%. That's significant. We can then have another discussion on the cost of that electricity. We've been public even the last time when we discussed that the monumental era of NECSA. I've acknowledged, and that is a consensus view, a unanimous view really in the portfolio committee across all party lines, that the electricity is expensive. And I did say that we're doing something about it. And I did say in the last meeting that there'll be
Minister.
as possible.
Minister.
What? Yes.
Minister, we couldn't hear you in another part. If you can just start that sentence, because we lost you. I don't know whether other people were able to hear you. You must also look for another corner so that the network is so clear to us.
I'm in the one space, but
yeah, look for another corner.
The point is that when we come back with the IRP, we will have a much more broader energy discussion. And I made the point that all of us across party lines who are agreed on the need for us to address the issues of the cost of electricity. And I made the point that in our last discussion, when we discussed the NECSA fumble, I did say to some of the parties that all of you that will come also at the bilateral level to say these are some of the options that we are considering, so that when we get to convene in this fashion, there's some degree of understanding. We don't necessarily have to agree on everything, but I think we'll be understanding where each party is coming from. I want to leave it there, Chair, but I was saying that I needed just to narrow my response on the issues of the board at NECSA. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. Do you want any other person to add?
No, I think we're fine on our side, Chair. Thank you for that.
Okay. Honorable members, that's the explanation that has been given by the Minister. Is there any question that hasn't been answered from any other honorable member? I don't see any other hands now. Then, Honorable Brian, please don't respond to any other honorable member, but ask a question that you think needs to be answered by the Minister and the department. Over to you, Honorable Brian. Over to you, Honorable Brian Leaf.
Chair, the questions that I put on the chat, I don't know if the minister feels that they were sufficiently answered or that there was no need to answer them. Because I still do think that in terms of the conventional nuclear safety, the management of a nuclear facility is a significant matter, and that it will be prudent to talk to the relevant regulatory authorities, even though our resident expert, Mr. Milam, feels differently.
Oh, through you, Chair. I do want to apologize, Honorable Minister. I apologize, my brother. I didn't take notice of what you placed on the chat, and certainly not my intention not to answer. I apologize for that, and to the portfolio committee. On your first question, I did make the point that there's no requirement for that for us to report to the EIA. I've been in conversation with the CEO. All that needed to be done was just the requirement is that you inform the regulator here at home about the change of leadership. So that the CEO is giving me the assurance that it has been done. And I apologize for not responding earlier. My apologies.
Okay. Thank you very much, Minister. If it is the case, I thought Honorable Mlife, when I said I'm going to give him an opportunity to ask all what he had written in the chat. I think I was just giving an opportunity for him. Thank you very much. Nevertheless, it has been answered. Now, it seems as if there are no other hands that have been raised here. By the looks of things, we are done with the issue or the matter of NECSA board members. If there is something else that we need to get information on, as we usually do, we will do as such. But for now, let me say, let's adjourn the meeting and thank everyone who managed to join the meeting, especially after the long house sitting, and also thank the department, and moreover, thank the minister. Thank the minister for him to give himself an opportunity to come to the portfolio committee and clear up everything. Thanks ever so much for everyone who managed to join the meeting. We'll see one another, I think, next time. It will be maybe first and second. The secretary will announce when are we going to see one another. It's a problem to meet virtually at times, especially in a situation of this nature, when we want to hear every one of us talking in the platform. But nevertheless, it's gonna be fine. Thanks ever thanks ever so lot, and the meeting has adjourned. And good night.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, cheers.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.